Yeah, we're gonna do the
First creation and fall of man, education of Mary and Liz and Zoan, the unity of life, Elihu's lesson, death is a ministry. In Manetho's lesson, after the feast, we build with carpenter's tools on the life of Yahshua in the Muslim schools. Until the mass explain the meaning of truth. Yahshua reveals sinful ways when they stray from rules. At the feast in Bahar taught equality, and that between Allah and man is unity. Like Yahshua and Barada, we read scrolls sacred, using eternal happiness to clothe the naked. In Egypt, among Gentiles, tremendous works. Defeat the three temptations to examine your worth. Washing your hands, can't clean karmic dirt. Lying disciples didn't steal the body and spirit. And I left to appear fully materialized before Apollo and the silent brotherhood's eyes. Even in India, I appeared to Eastern sages. Came back to the Americas to save the nations. Living in sin, where should I begin? No brethren. Just as thusly broke from the monks Tibetan. As the Korean Gospels, I learned those lessons with a Moorish spirit spilling as the circle seven. Holy instructions and warnings to all young men. Marriage instructions, even duties of a husband. Holy instructions for children toward the mom and father's obedience. Holy covenant of nations Asiatic. Holy unity of rich and poor is in the attic. Master servant duty shall become a pleasure. Social duties by the prophet, Allah's treasure. Justice, charity, gratitude, sincere religion. Know thyself, inhale the breath of heaven. Spark the soul of man, reach the wisdom pinnacle. The instability of man is no miracle. In constant weakness, cause knowledge is insufficient. Lower self has the higher self in submission. Inconstancy and weakness, it caused misery. Origin of Asiatic, start of Christianity. After we left the capital and fulfill prophecy. Fallen sons of daughters, no hate, start loving me, your prophet. Without a rocket, meet you on the soul plane. Higher than Siphon, 7 lines of cocaine. You won't have to do that to hear me speak. Open your heart to the Most High, bump into a sheep. Fez might be red, black, or blue. He might teach you about Bohemian Grove or Olapoo. When I left to appear fully materialized before Apollo and the silent brotherhood's eyes. Even in India, I appeared to Eastern sages. Came back to the Americas to save the nations. Living in sin, where should I begin? No brethren. Just as thusly broke from the monks Tibetan. As the Korean Gospels, I learned those lessons with a Moorish spirit spilling as the circle heaven. When I left to appear fully materialized before Apollo and the silent brotherhood's eyes. Even in India, I appeared to Eastern sages. Came back to the Americas to save the nations. Living in sin, where should I begin? No brethren. Just as thusly broke from the monks Tibetan. As the Korean Gospels, I learned those lessons with a Moorish spirit spilling as the circle seven. Yeah. Hand Operation Rapid in position. Still here. Operation Rapid in position. All the gods and goddesses. Iron sheep, hip-hop lives, yo. The deaf won't hear and the blind won't see. The hidden message in the words of Drew Ali. Inept indirectly. Drew Ali, one of the names of the prophets internationally. Drew said Moors, proclaim your nationality, cause you're not Ethiopian or NBC. So he founded America's MST in 28. Me saying that they will cause debates. So I needed to clear up the mess. But most debate so they can big up their chest to prove what they know and what they can do. Recreating the wheel that was created by Drew. When you know the truth, many debate, but few humble themselves and to trust the jungle itself. Through them, I just through me, keeping my gold while they trade in their jewelry. Time to and nature base school me. You fool me in your dreams. Dirty more think they can mule me truly. Who's the real Drew? Me and we. I see more their religion is my mental degree and where everybody's supposed to be. If not, I guess that's not where you're supposed to be. Hopefully, Drew Ali will be seen openly and realize NBC is something you can be. The deaf won't hear, the blind won't see. They hear the message and the words of Drew Ali. The deaf won't hear, the blind won't see. They hear the message and the words of Drew Ali. The deaf won't hear, the blind won't see. They hear the message and the words of Drew Ali. The deaf won't hear, the blind won't see. They hear the message in the words of True Ali. It seems unconscious, Moors love the semblance of identity and having no remembrance of their Moorish past, no resemblance of the ancestral land inheritance. Love being the children, not the parents. To do any activity asking for clearance. Their minds like crystal, nothing but clearance. Everyone can progress in their land, the heirs can't. It's your status. Stop blaming racists who bleed just like you. If you shank their faces, you Moors through hair and pyramids patience, and they use that as an emblem on their aprons, and can't be free if not Moorish Masons. Black or more Europeans are not Caucasians, coming to the new world to civilize pagans. With boats and harbors from Moscow hills, we sending in agents. The deaf won't hear, the blind won't see. They hear the message in the words of True Ali. The deaf won't hear, the blind won't see. They hear the message in the words of True Ali. The deaf won't hear, the blind won't see. They hear the message in the words of True Ali. The deaf won't hear, the blind won't see. They hear the message in the words of True Ali.
We transcend and ascend in this. It's a journey, just like the Moors traveling. Worlds upon worlds that's found within. They gotta touch her as we exhale. Pass all distorted truths and the lies they tell to keep y'all from drinking at the well. Divine love, that's the fountain of youth. Sun deep it, this is the alphabet secret. Restoring true unity, resurrecting a community. So every day awake to fight. Though it's hard, it's rest God. In every demonstration, I'm penetrating to the depths of the mind. A noble chief, well kept and refined. Your feeling is bright like the star Sirius. This musician is the son of man. I look within, True Ali on the canvas of my soul to replenish the whole, replacing the old. It's critical, reaching to the pinnacle. Native and original MC that's relevant, and the style is intelligent, but I keep it interesting. Dropping true math in the cipher if you enter in. The law is the center, so study yourself and be renewed. That's elevation, restoration through contemplation and meditation. Now the soul's navigating, manifesting all creation. The room of this mic, utilizing the light on the path. My body is an astro lab. I take the right actions, and my compass is compassion for internal alchemy.
The deaf won't hear, the blind won't see. They hear the message in the words of True Ali. The deaf won't hear, the blind won't see. They hear the message in the words of True Ali. The deaf won't hear, the blind won't see. They hear the message in the words of True Ali. The deaf won't hear, the blind won't see. They hear the message in the words of True Ali. Yeah. I know what Dirty Moors did to True Ali. I'm going at dirty rappers, lynching dirty Moors too. Hiding literature that Drew wrote to warn you. They claim to make you Muslim and make you sovereign. The paperwork and filings, if fiat, they're robbing. They don't care about his words, throw it out like garbage or throw it at you when you're active, not passive. When they want to talk about it's like off a trampoline mattress, treat them like a vamp or a teen actress. Get stabbed with a brand like a mean savage. This inquisition's divine, all others average. Millennium Renaissance, heroes in our classes. Shut up with the czar controlling fascists. Ask if they heard about Moors, they say no. But Masons, they obviously know. Found the handshakes and rituals with skull and bones. They even know about Owl's burning Bohemian Grove. I know what Dirty Moors did to True Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to True Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to True Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to True Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. Dirty Moors killed Drew. I read the FBI papers. I'm loyal Moors, emergency fund rapers. Moorish literature and divine valor changes. Might as well say True Ali was born in a manger. Prophets push poison aside and his food smell danger. Got me treating every Moor like a stranger. Grand Chief Funkin, stumbling drunk in their feds. Always proclaimed for every meeting was not read. Some Moors are so active, prophet can't be dead. Thanks Moorish teachers away, I can't be led. Actions speak, then I consider what's said. And what's said said was study, then study yourself. Honest to the prophet over Drew Ali. I know what dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. Everybody wants to be just like Drew Ali, but nobody wants to care about Drew Ali. I know what dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what dirty Moors did. I know what dirty Moors did. I know what dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what dirty Moors did. I know what dirty Moors did. I know what dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what dirty Moors did. I know what dirty Moors did. I know what dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what dirty Moors did.
Peace and love, Islam to all Moors worldwide. We're here. Canaanland Moors Tuesday session. Peace to all the Moors in the chat. Islam to all the Canaanland Moors everywhere that you're at. Before we start up, we got a little bit of housekeeping to do before we get to the main course meal for today. We're going to start up with African American religions, colonialism, democracy, and freedom by Sylvester Johnson. Now we want you to take note of who they have on the cover of the book when they're talking about African American religions from the 1500s to 2000. Remember, people who are on the front of the book is after the 1500s. But for some reason, they have the Moors, specifically Moorish Science Temple of America, on the cover of the book. Not Ahmadiyya movement, not NOI, not UNIA, Moorish Science Temple of America. You have to ask yourself, how come people show no honors to Noble Drew Ali, especially people who look like him? But then when we go studying and stuff like that, we start seeing that he actually had a lot of clout. So we'll go to page 319 just to give a little background. Repression of African American Muslims. The FBI's targeting of Church of God in Christ, as it turned out, was only a meager sign of greater things to come. Beginning in the 1930s, the FBI began repressing the African American Muslims, specifically the Moorish Science Temple of America. J. Edgar Hoover was first alerted to the Moorish Science Temple status as a racial threat by a report from the FBI's Philadelphia field office, which presented findings from its covert observations of the group. In 1931, during the early phase of its covert surveillance, an FBI field agent interviewed under false pretenses J.T. Bay, an African-American barber who led the MSTA membership in Reading, Pennsylvania. The agent had already questioned Bay's landlord, a woman who rented to African-American boarders. Bay innocently enough informed the undercover agent of the movement's proper name. The FBI had referred to them as the Moorish Shrine Temple and explained the fundamental aim of their faith, recovering their Moorish heritage. Now, as we know, Noble Drew Ali was around since the 1913 area, doing this work. They're talking about beginning in the 1930s FBI began repressing quote-unquote African-American Muslims. Now, when we use these timestamps, remember, we gotta have multiple reference points so we can really see what's going on here. Right? Anur Majid, we are all Moors. Anur Majid, we are all Moors. Page 80. On the eve of Noble Drew Ali's death in 1929, W.D. Fard Muhammad, probably born to a man from East India and a woman of English descent, appeared in Chicago after having entered the United States via Canada illegally in 1913. With an anglicized name and having joined the Theosophical Society of San Francisco, Garvey's UNIA, and once in Chicago, the Moorish Science Temple, while attending the Ahmadiyya Mosque on the city's south side. When Fard Muhammad moved to Detroit in 1930, this is after Noble Drew Ali's death, with its estimated 120,000 black people to peddle exotic clothes and such, Noble Drew Ali had passed away, and Fard Muhammad soon started preaching to Drew Ali's working class customers, establishing a movement of Muslims as opposed to Drew Ali's Muslims. Right? This is a known fact that up until Noble Drew Ali's death, it was Muslims. Up until Noble Drew Ali's death, it was Muslims. This Muslim stuff that you hear people, black Muslims and all that stuff, all that is fraud. Because we already know in the literature, Noble Drew Ali said all these are Muslims. Never once did he demonstrate to Muslims. Officially, the Lost Foundation of Islam, stressing consumer discipline, education, strict dietary laws, and pride in one's origins, was founded on July 4th, 1930. But it would be Elijah Poole from Georgia, down on his luck in the cold, forbidden north, who would designate the mysterious Fard Muhammad as God incarnate after meeting him in 1931. Now, again, reference points. So when we go to the final call with all the fezzes, 1934, you can see right up here that they got Fard listed as Prophet W. Fard. Remember, this is before him being Allah in person of Fard Muhammad. Before he was Allah in person of Fard Muhammad, he was Prophet Fard. How was he Prophet Fard in 1934? Oh, because the estimated 120,000 black people that he had as members in 1930 came directly from the Muslims who were with Noble Drew Ali in the Moorish Science Temple of America, who, because they were so inept, when Noble Drew Ali transitioned, they didn't even know what the hell to do. They just started following goddamn anybody. No different than when they took out Dr. Malachi York, and because he was gone, they knew that they could bulldoze all those pyramids and all that stuff that they had on the land and all that. Because the people were inept. They were playing follow the leader. They weren't playing know thyself. They were playing follow the leader to know thyself, which is a fraud. Complete fraud. Fard. Right? So, again, timeline. Noble Drew Ali, 1930, 1929, gets assassinated. 1930, Nation of Islam started. 1934, Fard Muhammad is known as Prophet Fard Muhammad to the lost found nation of Islam, who, by the way, is not a nation, because we know that, according to Anwar Madrid, we are all Moors. And these people are playing games. All these people are playing games, been playing games. We already know Moor Science Temple leaders been playing games, but everybody else after them been playing games too. And what are they playing games with? Your birthright. Playing games with your birthright. Now again, remember, let's go back to the repression of the African American Muslims with the Moors on the cover. So you can let this sink in. But why are they talking about why are they talking about African American religions from the 1500s, but the only picture they have in the cover of the book are the Moors? The hell do you think they're trying to tell you? It goes to all the black Indians, all the black Muslims, all the black, whatever they call themselves. How come they're not on the cover of this book? How come they weren't qualified to make the cover? Because everybody's a fraud. Everybody knows that America is the land of the Moors. The only people who don't know are the so-called Negro, black, colored people. They have no intention of knowing anything, because all they're busy to do is follow. And all they're following are the sellouts who buried this thing called Moorish heritage and history and culture. As Bey made clear, the MSTA, from its membership cards to its organizational practices, rejected the ideology of white supremacism and taught instead that Moorish peoples merited treatment on the basis of racial equality. Accordingly, converts were told that displaying their membership cards at local restaurants would ensure they received every courtesy and equal privileges with other races. Why is that a problem? Why is it a problem? Oh, because the nationality card puts your status on the record of who you are. And once they see your status is Moorish, then they can't F with you. Which Moors today, who's been exercising their right, presenting their Moor status, are proof positive that that's an actuality. Now, when you show your nationality card, automatically these people know exactly what the hell's going on and know exactly who you are. And they'll tell you some stuff about yourself that you didn't even know about yourself. Because we've been so lost and never found, claiming that we're found, claiming that we're nations, claiming that we have a status, claiming all this BS. When the only status for these people who are classified as Negro, black, colored, African, nation of this, nation of that, black, this and that, is Moors. On learning this, the FBI concluded that Bey was a fanatic on the subject of equality for all races. Of striking significance, in fact, is the degree to which the FBI interpreted the religion of these blacks as pathological by claiming they were mentally imbalanced, delusional, or intellectually weak. The Bureau's official stance, moreover, was that the MSTA existed for reasons of propaganda and was not an actual religion. Beyond this, Bureau officials were quick to note that reliable Negroes not affiliated with the MSTA regarded the Moorish group to be crazy, more or less of a joke, and largely irrelevant. This is why we go back again to Noble Drew Ali telling these Moors, make sure you read the stuff for every meeting or whatever. And then in the letters to be read every, as a matter of fact, you might as well read that just so you can get it. Why we say he's a prophet, why we give him the honors that we give him. All right, remember, beyond this, Bureau officials were quick to note that reliable Negroes not affiliated with the MSTA, which is BS, because anybody who's Negro in the 1930s, they were affiliated with the MSTA, because all these people's leaders after Noble Drew Ali transition came out of the Moorish movement or the UNIA, which both of those were Moorish. Beyond this, Bureau officials were quick to note that reliable Negroes not affiliated with the MSTA regarded the Moorish group to be crazy, more or less of a joke, and largely irrelevant. And Noble Drew Ali told these Moors, before he transitioned, make sure you read these stuff every meeting so the people could know who these sellouts are. To be proclaimed at every meeting, Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people on our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. Our side of the nation doesn't mean that they're part of MSTA. He's not talking religious organization right now. He's talking about these Negroes who don't want to be Moors, who have every excuse in the world why they're not Moors, who, when you present Moors to them, they're going to tell you everything as to how you're not a Moor, when they look just like you and me. And they never look up the definition that a Moor is any dark-skinned person, especially African Negro. And they keep playing this game like they don't know who we are. They don't know who they are, but they're a nation. And they're not just a nation, they're a nation of a religion that is known throughout the entire world. And then anybody else out there who's part of this religion, they don't call themselves a nation of them. The whole world tells these people that they're full of BS. There's no such thing as no nation of Islam. That's BS. Those are Moors. Ask anybody who's Islamic. They know. They'll tell you. They'll definitely tell you. The FBI vilifying inscription of Antichrist theology as fanaticism merely demonstrates how deeply committed the Department of Justice was to the political imperatives of the U.S. racial state. However, insofar as the MST opposed white supremacy and registered the apartheid nature of American society, the FBI was correct in identifying it as an antithetical to the US political order. In this sense, the movement was subversive. There was no way to reconcile the theology of the MSTA with American apartheid and anti-Black racism. The FBI's racist presumptions about Blacks caused them to interpret the MSTA critique of so-called Negro identity as an absurdity because MSTA members identified as Moorish and not as Negroes. Agents of the Bureau claimed that these Blacks were merely masquerading behind a fake identity because they possessed the appearance and characteristics of a full-blooded Negro. No such thing as a full-blooded Negro. There's no such thing as a Negro. That's a fiction. FBI knows this, but the whole point of the matter is to have these so-called Moors detach from Moors so that they can label them as anything. Once Nation Islam started saying Muslims, they automatically took themselves out the jurisdiction of Muslims, and now they can be classified as anything. As soon as Martin Garvey told these people, the only way you're going to be happy is if you have a nationality, and they didn't pick up on game that he was giving them, and the only person who told you what your nationality is was Noble Drew Ali. And then you have all these fakers out here today telling you about they're a nation of this, they're a nation of Indians, they're a nation of all this stuff, and none of them ever tell you what the nationality of that nation is. If you're a nation of Islam, what's your nationality? Black, Asiatic. That's not a nationality. Shut the hell up. Stop lying. Black Muslim. That's not a nationality. Stop lying. We're gods and earths. No, that's not. Gods and earths and 5% is not a nationality. Stop lying. But this is the game that they play. Because keep in mind, again, the first Black organizations infiltrated were the UNIA and Moorish Science Temple of America. Remember, NAACP, that's an organization of agents. That's not anything for our people's liberation. That's an organization of agents. Majority of the so-called organizations between 1913 and 1930, if they weren't Moorish, they were an organization of agents. Remember, Marcus Garvey's family were Maroons. So they were Moors. I don't care if he called this stuff Negro. They were Moors. They knew that they were Moors. They knew eventually it would get there, which is why they shut him down. The MSTA's assertion of ethnic heritage thus functioned as evidence for the FBI that these Moorish Americans were engaged in religious fraud. The FBI also coordinated with state and local law enforcement to harass and intimidate MSTA leaders who engaged in legal and constitutionally defensible activities. By 1941, for instance, the FBI's, now keep in mind, by 1941, for instance, hold on a second, they were saying back here that beginning in the 1930s, FBI began repressing the African Muslims. How did they go from 1930 to 1941? Because they were, at this point, surveilling their agents. Remember, Noble Drew Ali's gone. Remember, 1930s, Drew Ali transition. The Great Schism took place, where all these so-called Moorish leaders were claiming to be the head of the Moorish movement. And if they weren't in the Moorish movement, they were outside of it claiming to be prophet, claiming to be God, claiming to be all these other stuff, because why? The man is no longer around, Noble Drew Ali. So it made an open gateway for anybody to claim anything, because they already know these dumb Negroes are going to follow, because they're followers, not leaders. That's our people. Our people are down with follow. Our people are game for follow. That's why when people talk that BS about, Taj Tariqites and you guys are following whoever, those people are full of BS. Because Moors are new Moors with their eyes wide open, seeing and knowing, are Moors who lead. They don't follow anybody because they already know half these people are going over the cliff. That's why we don't follow. We know majority of these people are dirty. That's why we don't play follow. That's why the verified Moorish leaders that we look to for inspiration, they teach us don't follow them even. Because it's not about follow. It's about study, show yourself approved, and know what's good. Islam more.
Islam.
Wherever you want to jump in, if you're ready.
Yeah, I was just, Islam, great sheet.
Yeah,
I was just listening, and because, when they said Noble Drew Ali transition, when you had just mentioned Noble Drew Ali transition in 1930, what was the year what was it called? The Black Muslim? What year did that open up?
Yeah, 1930. Drew Ali, 29, gone. 1930, 120,000 members in Detroit. for the Temple of Islam?
It probably wasn't even a year. It probably wasn't even a full year. Because I remember you had mentioned a while back how they literally just changed the sign. Like, because there's no way you can just do all of that in a couple of months. 120,000 members.
120,000.
The only way you can do that is if you buy members on Facebook or you buy views or something. None of that was around back then. You know, like I don't know how you just started with 120,000 members.
Off the top.
I can't see that.
Yeah, off the top.
Unless there was already a foundation there.
Mm-hmm. No, this is how we know foundation was there. Again, we're going to go to the book with the Moors on the cover, because obviously Sylvester Johnson knew what was up. Didn't put anybody else on the cover. No 50 pictures of all the 50 different black Muslim whatever. Moorish Science Temple, Noble Drew Ali only. Right? In 1930, another organization, the Lost Foundation of Islam, emerged in Detroit as an offshoot of Moorish Science. Roughly 1 month before his untimely death, Drew Ali had appointed an energetic and ambitious convert, David Ford L., as a Grand Sheikh and placed him in charge of the Chicago Mosque. The schismatic dissension that emerged in the wake of Ali's death turned violent, culminating in a standoff between several MSTA members and 1,000 members of the Chicago police. David Ford L. pulled up roots and moved to Detroit, where he started Allah's Temple of Islam to rebuild the floundering MSTA community, changing his name to Wallace D. Fard. His efforts at renewal became the Lost Foundation of Islam. In line with the heritage and theology of the MSTA, the Nation of Islam, NOI, taught that Islam was the original religion of blacks. Under Fard's leadership, this fledgling movement would soon win its most valuable convert, Elijah Poole, who was a Bey, flag bearer of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Poole eventually settled on a new Islamic surname, Muhammad. He and his wife, Clara Muhammad, took over leadership of the Lost Foundation of Islam and developed its theology, drawing on the teachings of Fard, whose increasingly onerous harassment and detentions by the police led to his being banished from Detroit. The married couple became the de facto leaders of the religious community. In the ensuing years, in fact, Clara Muhammad regularly led and directed the growing community of African-American Muslims in Detroit during the times her husband was incarcerated or banned from the city. She proved a capable and efficient administrator, demonstrating moral authority and modeling ideal piety while navigating the threat of state repression. In addition to the heritage teachings of Moorish science, the Mohammeds also developed an account of racial origins that claimed Western colonialism and slavery were designed by divine beings, a cruel negotiation of sorts among powerful black gods to predestine racial rule by whites, which would be followed by the eventual reawakening and empowerment of black people. So they knew that they were Moors. By the time the dust settled, people are black, they're Muslims, they don't got fezzes on anymore. People took off their bay, saying that they're Muhammad, telling people, join up to our stuff, say that your name is X, because you don't know what your name is, but they got Muhammad on their stuff. And I tell them they got to go through the lessons and stuff like that first before they could earn a Muslim name and all that stuff. And then you got people 1X, 18X, 55X, 312 2 million X before they just tell them that they're Els, Bays, Days, Als, and Alis. Oh, but Muhammad, but Cassius Clay could join and he can get an Ali off the top. How come he could just get an Ali just like that? And then how come all these other people who were X didn't start questioning, hey, hold on a second, how come this guy just came yesterday and he's Ali already? How come nobody questioned, hey, hold on a second, Malcolm been around before him. How he get Ali before even Malcolm? How come Malcolm was X until he took himself to Mecca, declared who he was, and got L from over there? Playing people. And again, they wouldn't put Moors on the cover if they didn't know what was up. Somebody obviously knew what was up. This is why they put him on the cover and the Moors on the cover. Islam more.
Islam more. Islam.
Yeah, Islam more. You got anything else to throw in?
Yeah, I'm just going to hear for a second.
All right, yeah, do your thing, more.
All right, Islam.
Now, again, back to Anwar Majid. Officially, the Lost Foundation of Islam, stressing consumer discipline, education, strict dietary laws, and pride in one's origins, was founded on July 4th, 1930, but it would be Elijah Poole from Georgia, down on his luck in the old Forbidden North, who would designate the mysterious Fard Muhammad as God incarnate after meeting him in 1931. The following year, Fard Muhammad was arrested on strange charges pertaining to a follower's alleged sacrifice of another man. Then again in 1933 for disturbing the peace. In June 1934, Fard left as abruptly as he had appeared in 1929, leaving behind Elijah Muhammad, Elijah Poole as he was known, to lead a fractious movement caught up in internecine conflict and division. Elijah Muhammad began an odyssey south, using the assumed names of Muhammad Rasul and Ghulam Bogans, the latter being the name under which he was arrested and jailed in 1934 in Washington, D.C. for failing to register for the draft. When he was released from prison in August 1946, he took the reins of his organizations and turned it into a successful business enterprise, uplifting the status of his working class followers considerably and attracting middle-class African Americans. By 1960, the man called the Messenger was firmly in control of an organization whose members carried identity cards similar to those issued by the Moorish Science Temple. Like that of most minority movements, the Nation of Islam's theology was centered on self-affirmation and reversing the dehumanizing regime of oppression that Black Muslims had been subjected to for hundreds of years. If the Moors of Moorish science were Moabites or Canaanites from Morocco who founded Mecca, the nation's ancestors, the lost tribe of Shabazz, creatures of a black god called Allah, were directly from Mecca. And then remember Noel Jolly told these Moors that Mecca is Chicago. And where are they at right now? Where's their head stuff going on right now? Their head stuff is in Chicago, right? No, but then they still play the black stuff, which is why Chicago is a black hole for murder and destruction and everything else that harms, right? Because these people did a hex on a whole jurisdiction. They did a hex. And guarantee you go anywhere where that stuff is, and it's death and destruction there. But, you know, people got their private jet that they can go wherever. They can go get, you know, Washington, D.C. anytime. They can take money from Gaddafi and say that they're going to go build hair salons and they're going to start, you know, black hair care businesses and all this type of stuff. But then other certain people get money from Gaddafi and they're doing 150 million years in Supermax. And all these people talk BS about Jews and the Jews or this and that or whatever like that. Nothing happened to them. You don't think that they're working on the other side? You really don't think they're working on the other side? Just for the simple fact that they call people black, you know they're working on the other side. Just that alone. Anybody who's playing that game that our people aren't Moors and we're black and all that, trust they work on the other side. And remember, after 1929, when they say FBI infiltration of the whatever, know that they were already having their agents under surveillance. They were keeping eyes on their property. It wasn't no surveillance like how we're thinking it is. They weren't surveilling no Moorish Science Temple of America. The whole purpose was to get the agents in, trump up some FBI papers, have you think that they infiltrated and they're the Moorish movement, when that's not a Moorish movement. Those are the sellouts that came after Noble Drew Ali transition. Remember, FBI papers started in 1931 with Moorish Science Temple. They didn't start in 1913. But we know that there were agents in the movement giving information to the European powers in order for them to have the inside connection on how to destabilize the Moorish movement. And we know this. This is not a we're in some denial of what went down. We know exactly what went down, which is why we're here today, putting out certain information, which is why, you know, all this time passed. All this time passed after Noble Drew Ali transitioned, and not a peep from these people who knew what was up. That's the works of agents. Now remember, everybody who was part of Allah's Temple of Islam, Nation of Islam, had a love for the brother El Hajj more than they did for the founders of that stuff. So when he jumped up and left, a lot of other people jumped up and left because they realized that they're full of BS. They weren't telling the truth. They had some European up there talking about he's God incarnate, but then they're Asiatic and they're the founders of civilization, but they're not God. Then in comes now Clarence 13X, who was one of the ones that left with El Hajj, realizing that it was BS. And what did they do to him? The same thing that they did to Noble Drew Ali. Because why? He was taking these people out of the status of Negro, black, color, and telling them that they're gods. Remember, this is 1960s. 1960s, these people are trying to convince everybody that the only God is the Son of God, Jesus Christ and Savior and all that stuff. And then this Asiatic is telling people that, nah, forget that European, you're God. So you're going to pull up, there's an article by Bradley Gooding. We're going to go through a little bit of that. Again, just to show this idea of the quote-unquote infiltration and the stoppage of the ones who were really trying to get our people into a higher status than this place of Negro and Black. And again, this is somebody who doesn't get the acknowledgement and the praise that he should, because he did a name correction. He said, forget that Clarence 13X BS. He said, Father Allah. We know Allah is Arabic. We know Al is Moorish. We know that. We know Al is Moorish. We know Allah would be Moorish because the 5 civilized tribes are the Days, the Bays, the Els, the Als, and the Alis, Moors of America. Bradley Gooding. The special unit was otherwise known as the Bureau of Special Services. And indeed, the initials BSS can be repeatedly observed over the course of the 5%er FBI files. A New York City police officer once anonymously revealed they have a group called Bossy that is a special service group which does a lot of undercover work. They are the group that infiltrates all of these radical groups like the Black Panthers or any kind of subversive group. And these guys find out a hell of a lot of information. To be sure, almost all the FBI's information came from New York, Bossy. And the Bureau was content to let Bossy directly handle the 5%ers. Thus, as we shall see again in the next section, the Bureau wanted to keep its hands clean of the situation in case of a discovery of the illegal surveillance against the 5%ers. Remember, see, they're not calling them nation right there. Irrespective of Bossy's reputation, no one in the New York office ever furnished any accurate description of the 5%ers. In fact, the only person who somewhat gauged the 5%ers was Director Hoover. First, in an October 25, 1965 director memo, Hoover noted the 5%ers is a gang of approximately 200. The leaders have given instructions to each other in Muslim-type ideology. Then at the end of the 1966 synopsis report from the Smith file, Hoover handwrote a personal summary. There are approximately 200 members of the 5%ers, and subject is their leader. He had extensive activity in the NOI from 61 to 65. He left the NOI to follow Malcolm X and joined Muslim Mosque Incorporated. He presently indoctrinates his followers in a distorted version of Muslim teachings. Finally, in the aforementioned 1966 director memo, the note read, the 5%ers have been a constant source of trouble to the NYCPD. They are not members of the Nation of Islam. However, they affect Islamic names and symbols. From these 3 items, it is apparent that Hoover knew the 5%ers were a derivative of the NOI, an organization he feared. So if they're a derivative of the NOI, and the NOI is a derivative of Moorish Science Temple of America, then who was Hoover really fearing? What was the real threat? The fact that eventually, if you're in any of these organizations, if they have any type of intelligence, they're going to be able to trace themselves back to the origin of these infiltrations. And it starts with Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Science Temple of America. At that time, they should be questioning themselves now as to, well, hold on a second. If that's the case, then how come in the teachings of the Nation of Islam, in the teachings of the Nation of Gods and Earths, there's no mention like that of Noble Drew Ali. There's no mention that we're Moors. There's no mention that all the supreme lessons, supreme alphabet, and all that stuff is really Moorish science. Watered down tremendously in order to have the people in that state of mind where it doesn't matter what you call yourself. It doesn't matter whether you're a nation or not. You can say that you're a nation and that means you're a nation. No, it doesn't. That's a fraud. If you're saying that you're a nation and when you ask your nationality, you have nothing to show that that's your nationality. Also, he understood the 5%ers practiced a distinct, more youthful ideology than the Black Muslims. As a consequence, he probably appreciated the potential appeal of the 5%ers. For this reason, it is reasonable to assume that Hoover had a master plan to repress Clarence 13X's group, and this notion serves as a subject for the remainder of this study. Although not conclusive, the evidence from the 5%er files overwhelmingly suggests that the FBI had a deliberate plan to keep Clarence 13X off the streets and behind bars. If true, the Bureau executed its plan with a succession of devious steps. First, the charges and bail against Smith were trumped up, and his journey through the court system was constantly delayed. Then, in order to keep Clarence 13X in custody, Hoover devised what can be labeled as an interdepartmental strategy. Finally, as a result of Hoover's strategy, the court sent Clarence 13X off to a mental hospital for a period of indefinite confinement. The FBI's actions in this regard should not come as a surprise. After all, Clarence 13X was the admitted leader of the 5%ers, and more often than not, part of the Bureau's protocol to diffuse Black nationalist groups necessitated neutralizing the leaders. In effect, Kenneth O'Reilly's Racial Matters and Carl Evans' The Judas Factor are case studies of this very protocol. O'Reilly's book explains how the FBI specifically targeted Martin Luther King, Huey Newton, Bobby Seale to bring down their respective movements. Likewise, Evans' book presents the Bureau's complex web of repression aimed at Malcolm X. Correspondingly, based on the 5%er files, similar forces were working against Clarence 13X. Similar forces. Why were these similar forces working? Because they already said it. The whole point of the 5%ers was to get at the youth. What was Noble Drew Ali's plan? This was for the young and unborn. It's a across-the-board protocol that the colonials have, that when they have these quote-unquote Black groups who are about the upliftment of themselves, if they're about doing stuff with adults, they'll let them do stuff all day. It doesn't even matter. They'll just have their little infiltrators in there just to make sure that, stuff is, going. As soon as you start pushing this toward the younger generations, and then the younger generations are picking it up, there's going to be a problem. There's definitely going to be a problem, a huge problem that they're not going to be able to solve, because like we see today, Noble Drew Ali said new Moors are going to come with their eyes wide open. New Moors are going to be obviously younger than the Moors who've been in this movement And what did they do with this? They took this, they started using their birthright. They didn't play like this was just some temple thing only. They didn't play like, you know, we're just going to carry our fez in a bag to the temple. They were wearing their fezes out in the open so people could see and know what was going on. They weren't playing background with this. Remember, this is the young and unborn who are us that are here now. And again, this is not a slight. We give honors to Father Allah, because what they did to him is it's not because of the lessons that he brought and stuff that they think that this is about. He was bringing them back to the Moorish mindset. What Moorish mindset? Their flag, the universal flag, has a 7 on it in a circle. They are transitioning from European names to Islamic names. They are transitioning their mindset to get to this place where they can actually be a nation again. The same thing that, you know how many Moors got 730 evaluation because they went in court and said that they're Moors? Same thing that they did with Father Allah. Knowing that more goes into this tribunal, and says, I'm not Negro, black, colored. I'm not the straw man. I'm not you guys' ward. I'm a Moor. Because they know that the Moor has them beat just by saying that on the record. The so-called colonials are going to say, oh no, he has psychiatric problems. He needs to get a psychiatric evaluation to see if he's capable of standing trial. Just go ask Moors. They'll tell you. Why they do that to Clarence 13X? Because he's saying that he's God. If he's saying that he's God, that's no different than a Moor saying, I'm not Negro, I'm a Moor. It's the exact same thing. Because again, the protocol that they have set up to deal with this is the same way that they've dealt with Moors. Give them a psychiatric evaluation because they're claiming that that name in all capital letters is not me. That's a straw man. And then they're saying that, oh, you're crazy if you're talking like that. What do you mean about that? But then you could look up straw man in the law dictionary. If straw man's in the law dictionary, how are these people who are claiming that they're practicing law are telling Moors they're crazy for saying that they're not the straw man? Who's really crazy? How is it that Moors in Canaanland are getting sent for psychological evaluation because they're saying that Canada is part of North America, and these people are saying Canada is its own country, it has nothing to do with North America? Who's really crazy? The Moors are crazy? No. It's the colonials that are crazy, and we know those are the ones that are nuts. We know they're the ones that are in the wrong. Again, this is the exact same thing that they did to the father. Islam more. I saw you. I heard you move. I don't know if you had anything to throw in.
No, I was just agreeing with what you had said right there at that moment. But a lot of everything, because you know, you've been over it so many times, man, Sheik, and I'm just glad you're doing it again. You know, to make a lot of stuff clear for a lot of people, because it isn't a couple of videos out that causing confusion. And I want to add on to when you had said, you know, they just making up all these so-called nations or whatever, and none of those places, you know, because we know that none of those places really exist. And once you start asking their nationality, they, you know, like you said, none of that, they start saying none of that matters or whatever. I was talking to a Moor earlier, and like you said, the young and yet unborn. I was talking to one of my young friends, and he was at the job or whatnot, and he calls me. First thing he said, yo, it's one of these Hebrews over here at the job. I'm like, oh, okay. He said, and it's the spiritual brother here. And he was like, the spiritual brother, you know, he's over there saying exactly what you said. None of that stuff matters. It's all about who you know, we're beings not from this planet and all of that. Yeah. And then the young Moor said, so I asked him, did you put any of that on your job application? I was laughing so hard. Like, you guys put all, like, you can't just be saying universe and all of this planet stuff, but on the application you put black. Right. You put Negro colored black, and I could not stop laughing at that. I was like, yeah, because that's exactly what it is. Yep. And he said, the Hebrew guy? I said, yeah. Well, he just thinks I'm the devil. I was like, yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy, because, you know, once we start saying we're Moors and stuff like that, the Hebrew guys go crazy. So he's at another one, but he's young, you know, because it's the young and yet unborn, and he's in there standing on the square, and to Moors, letting people who calling themselves all this other stuff, letting them know that they really are Moors. And it's the young that's doing it, and it's just correlative to what you were saying too. Yeah. About the young and yet unborn was going to get it.
Right. And again, you know, again, to stress that point about the young and yet unborn getting it, Islam to all nation of gods on earth out there who declare their nationality that they're Moors and know that they're Moors, even with knowing their lessons that was given to them to the nation of gods on earth. Because again, more in the chat, you know, I came up studying 5% lessons. It actually opened my mind, and once I got wind of more science, it was a wrap from there.
Yeah.
It was a wrap from there. Why? Because you're realizing why they say nation of gods and earths. You're realizing why they have supreme lessons. It all makes sense. Because we are a nation. Yeah, we're a nation. We're not a nation of gods and earths. We're a nation of Moors.
Yeah.
Because you can't be a god, because that's a verb transitive. You can't be an earth because that's on periodic table. You're not that. You know, you came from earth. Ain't no mother came from earth. We already know that we're celestial beings. So don't tell me about we're no earth. We're not no damn earth. Only way that we're earth and air and fire and water is because of our astrological sign. Other than that, we're not that. So we can't claim that as an identity. That is spiritual. That's divine. Nationality means what nation are you from? Now, if they would have said the Moorish nation of gods and earths, now that's a whole different thing now.
Yeah, like the Moorish Jews of Harlem.
Right? Like the Nuwapian nation of Moors. You know, it's all about how about nation of gods and earth Moors. How about that? And all those Shabazz and Allah and all those names, universal and all that stuff, put El and Bay after that stuff and then say that you're a nation. So we can get some work done. Don't stay fooled, because again, just like the Hebrews, we know Hebrews that got El and Bay on their stuff. We know NOI who got El and Bay on their stuff. We know Rastafarians who got El and Bay on their stuff. We know Nuwapians who got El and Bay on it. We know gods and earths who got El and Bay on it, and they know that they're Moors. So what's the problem? What's the issue? There should be no issue. Declare, proclaim your nationality, and then let's get to work. What's the issue? Although he engaged in little more than angry self-expression, the charges against Father Allah were representative of more serious offenses. The SAC informed Hoover that all 6 were charged with felonious assault, conspiracy to commit same, resisting arrest, assault with a deadly weapon, and disorderly conduct. In addition, Allah was charged with possession of a marijuana cigarette and malicious mischief. The assault charges almost certainly stemmed from police witness Wilbert Lee, who claimed the group had tried to attack him with sticks earlier that evening. Indeed, it was convenient for the police to produce Lee after the fact. The bail situation for Clarence 13X was so curious. The bail situation for Clarence 13X was also curious. On June 1st, the SAC noted all 6 subjects held on 3,000 to 5,000 bail. Allah received additional charge since he had a marijuana cigarette. Interestingly, on the following day, in a letterhead memo, bail was ranging from 2,000 to 95,000, the latter being the bail for Allah. In both cases, someone had made very quick decisions to single out Clarence 13X. Clarence 13X court appearance exhibited similar signs of railroading. At the trial, a source observed, during the hearing, Allah claimed that he was God and stated that the court could not charge them with anything since you can't charge Allah. You tell me that's not Moorish talk that he's talking? You tell me he doesn't understand jurisdiction? That he's going into the venue, he's not going with no Clarence 13X. He's going with, he's Allah. If I'm Allah, you can't charge me with anything. AKA, I'm not in your jurisdiction. I'm not your ward. Because again, remember that the whole point of the sellout was to get the people to not declare who they are and think that it doesn't matter what you call yourself. So you can say Clarence 13X and think that you did something until you bump into these highwaymen. And then they're claiming jurisdiction because their name's Clarence. Clarence is European. There's not no God name. Ain't no God named Clarence. Ain't no God and earth named X. It's real basic if you already know the law. Just like Afeni Shakur knew the law and got all those Black Panthers off with no lawyer when they're trying to trump up charges on them. According to beloved Allah, Smith's subsequent custodianship by Bellevue Hospital for psychiatric treatment was the result of him proclaiming himself to be God. Though flimsy, this contention may be accurate. For in the next correspondence to the director, the SAC offered an intriguing proposition. Due to Smith's actions, same thing that they like to do with Moors, right? They like to go back to the straw and call you that after you declare to them who you are. He said, I'm Allah. They're still calling him Smith in the court records in order to have jurisdiction to do whatever it is that they did. And then again, because of the membership being absent of law, they're not even looking at it from this perspective. They're looking at it like those Europeans are racist against the father because he's teaching us. No. Everything is based in law. That's how they rape us, because we are absent-minded of law. That's why you can't knock Moors. Because one thing that Moors push is that you better know the law. Forget knowing some scientific BS. You better know the law. You better know jurisdiction. You better know contracts. You better know certain things that these people are using to govern us. Because if you don't, they're going to use these same things against you when the time comes. That's how we keep going on the record to tell these people, we are Moors. By claiming that we're Moors, it gets you out of the jurisdiction of the colonial powers, even if they kidnap you. But know that when they kidnap you, you better not have any type of papers, cards, or whatever with some straw name on it that you didn't reserve your rights, because they're going to use that stuff against you to get you back in the jurisdiction that you just got out of by claiming you're Moors, or claiming you're Allah, or claiming that you're gods and lost temples of Islam or whatever. Please, more.
Islam. It just seems as if, like, well, to me, it just seems as if, like, the infiltration started, like, the infiltrators came in 1930. Like, all the confusion, like, when I was listening to you earlier, saying, you know, they started taking off the bays off the titles. You know, like, people weren't calling themselves Moors no more. They started saying Black Muslims and stuff like that. But, you know, when I'm listening to you, I take it as it, but I'm like, but where's the European at that's branding them Negro colored black? Like, the Prophet came in, like, 1913. It was like, back then, when you check the census too, back then in the 1913, people, you check the family record, you see like this, Negro colored and black. You know what I mean? Like, so like when the Prophet came on the scene and said that we were Moors, he had 120,000 plus people saying that they were Moors. When they came and put us back in slavery, like, I don't see like the FBI didn't come in and do that. I don't see a group of Europeans coming in doing that. You know, like, I don't see like, oh, they came in with bayonets and said, if you don't call yourself blacks, we're gonna kill you. Like, I don't see none of that. I see our people saying, you know, we're not Moors anymore. Take the sign down, Black Muslim. Don't call you, taking the bays off, calling yourself X and all of that. I see our people doing that. Like, so like now in 2000, like a couple, you know, years later, how am I supposed to look at that place that's still active now? Like, am I supposed to be like, oh, well, you know, because the way they got stuff set up, we should be looking like, how am I, like, in other nations, they would be like, they would know, like, oh no, that place is only set up to get rid of what's really supposed to be there. Like that's what they would do in other countries. Other nations would do that. Like, they wouldn't just be like, oh, well, because the way they got stuff set up, we should look at it. No, that's not, because their whole thing was to get rid of nationality. The whole thing was to get rid of nationality. That was their whole plan, to get the Prophet off the scene, because that's not a coincidence. That's a crazy coincidence too. Like, Prophet's gone 29, and then 1930, this guy's the prophet now. That's and we're taught, such thing as coincidences.
Right.
That's just crazy, and we're still supposed to, I be seeing more. It's like, oh, the nation is, I'm like, man, I'm supposed to just forget that then? Like, or how does that work? You know what I mean? Like, I would be mad if my son, somebody killed me, and then my son just was like, well, I'm gonna let it go. What? Brother, I'm coming back to cut my son out. like what? Like, no, you can't. I'm not looking at it. You can't do that. Something got to be done. Something got to be said. Some truth got to be let out.
Yeah.
Something. We can't just, he's off the scene, and all these other organizations just popped up. And when we bring up Noble Drew Ali, everybody's looking like we don't know who that is.
Yeah.
But when we check y'all work and y'all foundation, it all stems from him.
Mm-hmm.
So how you don't know what we talking about? How you don't know what we talking about?
Yeah.
I hear 5%. Since I hear 5%, first thing I think of is what kind of flag you got? Red with a 5-pointed green star. First thing I think of when I hear 5%,
mm-hmm.
I think of 5-pointed green star.
Yeah.
When they start, like you said earlier, when they say nation of anything, first thing I'm thinking nationality. The prophet bring that. Like everything, like where he already did it all. It's just that they started breaking off, adding their little thing to that. We're this now. We're this now. Like none of that. None of that was around. It wasn't even none of that Aboriginal, indigenous crap going on.
Mm-hmm.
None of that was even going on. None of that. None of that. The prophet came right on the scene first, saying Moorish, we the Aboriginal indigenous people to this land, Northwest New Mexico.
Islam.
They play. It's just bugging me out. I'm like, well, what I'm supposed to do is just let that go. Like, you guys got rid of the prophet. Like that's crazy.
That's part of it too. With even seeing all these different organizations around today, and none of them claiming that they're Moors. Like y'all just let it go. Like everybody knows that NOI came out of Moorish Science Temple in this day and age. Majority of people you talk to, they know. Oh yeah, Nation of Islam. Well, yeah, before that they were Moorish Science Temple or whatever. Even Nation of Gods on Earth know. Oh, before 64, everything was Moorish Science. Okay, so how y'all not saying that you're Moors then? How? Why is there such a disconnect from the fact that we are all Moors? Why is there a disconnect? Is there something wrong with the dietary laws? Why your mind's messed up? Because something's wrong in your mind. If you can claim everything else, if you can claim to be gods and earths, but won't claim that you're Moors. And then if you do claim that you're Moors, well, okay, well, let me see your nationality card. Oh, well, I'm not in it that deep or whatever, but I know that we're Moors. What are you talking about? You better know that. You better know it's that deep. There has to be a connection to a nation. What is the nation? Nation of Islam. Islam is not a nation. So you can't claim that that's your nation. Stop it. Gods and earths is not a nation. There's nowhere in the world that there's some other people that they call themselves that. And they have some type of national recognition. No way. They're going to just do you just like they did Father Allah. Call you by the straw name and bring you right back into the jurisdiction because you're claiming crazy. Islam more.
Islam. Because that's the main thing right there. Because and like you said, they with Islam, he spilled the beans. He said, this is a Mexico, Morocco, Maghreb, all that. We know we were Moorish.
Yeah.
And like you said, so what's the problem? What's the disconnect? Well, when I did the research, I mean, okay, a lot of the great people I learned from, when they tell you, when you want to find out what happened, they tell you to follow the money.
Mm-hmm. Manila envelope. Remember also too, when you say follow the money, remember they showed you in the Malcolm X movie where they tried to give Al-Hajj the Manila envelope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They tried to tell him, even Betty tried to tell him, hey, just take the money. What the hell's wrong with you? Just take the money. No. I have a little bit too much integrity for all that BS.
Yeah.
I have a little bit too much. I have a little bit too much love to know that they killed my dad and I'm just gonna let it go because they gave me a check.
Yeah, great. Just because you gave him the yellow envelope, now we're good. No. And then people took the yellow envelope in, and they still coming back with new envelopes right now.
Yep.
Still getting envelopes. That's what, when I did the research, I started seeing, okay, so what's the problem? Oh, somebody's getting federal funding. People getting checks off of people being called minorities. People getting checks off of people being called black. Like, you can get paid off of this. My son, so-called, go to MLK school. It's all, and they call it this, the all-black school. Yeah. They get paid federal funding because it's a minority school. They get paid for that. Mm-hmm. You can get paid off of claiming I'm a minority. So a lot of these places that set up that we've been going on, NOI, whatever, they all get kickbacks, some type of grant, federal funding by still playing, well, we still going to sign the paperwork as black.
Something.
That's the whole thing. Because once you, like you said, well, you were Moorish, let me see your ID. Well, I'm not in it like that. But I know what Moorish though. Oh, okay. So I know you filling out paperwork, straddling in the fence, getting kickbacks. Niggas still keeping us in slavery while you getting kickbacks. You living good. You doing whatever you want to do, you know what I mean? All off the fact that our people are Negro colored black.
Yep.
Because if we're Moors and we're all Moors, that so-called jail system stuff gets closed down. So that means somebody's not getting federal funding because you got all your programs in that prison system.
Exactly.
So you're part of the human trafficking as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all you got to do is just do the research. This isn't with, we just do the research. It's just the way we say it. Like, we shouldn't say it. Like, I tell my people, people, I know the problem. I shouldn't have said it. The thing is, I said it. That's the problem. Everybody knows there's an elephant in the room. I just said, y'all don't see that damn elephant in the room?
Right.
Like, I came in, everybody squished in the corner, and I'm like, y'all didn't see.
You don't see what's going on?
In the room.
Yeah. Nah, that's not an elephant.
That's not an elephant.
That's furniture. Oh. That's furniture.
That's furniture. Doesn't have a seat. Right.
Yeah, it's a bird. It's a bird.
Right. That's the thing. That's the thing. But we mentioned it. We mentioned it. That's the whole thing.
Right. There's a lot more. Yeah, I'm gonna because you know how it goes. It's freaking 8:23. We didn't even get to the video yet, so we're gonna go to that right now. And again, stress one that you are a nation already, gods and earths. Don't let these infiltrators try to slide into your stuff, try to convince you of some imaginary BS. Don't let them do it. We are all Moors. We have a nationality. Noble Drew Ali brought that to us already. Trust me, the fact that you can go in the FBI records and read that they're still calling Father-in-law Clarence Smith or whatever, that should let you know that there was a problem, a big problem. Because Moors will show you their records where there ain't no records. They just let these Moors out the back. Because once you put your status on the record, these people don't have jurisdiction. Well, what happened to certain Moors got kidnapped and they can't get out? Because this is divine and national. And those people are probably doing stuff they shouldn't be doing. That's why they can't get out. They played their self. That's why they can't get out. Any Moor who we know declared, proclaimed their nationality and put it on the record, not just said it out their mouth because they got in a situation. They actually put it on the record. That was a divine move. That was checkmate for these people. So once they got snatched, it was only a matter of time before, you know what, get this guy out of here. Because we can't even have him talking the way that he's talking with these inmates in here.
Right.
Get him out of here. He's more of a threat in here than he is out there. Because out here, nobody has anything. Right. If they only knew they were slaves, I would have freed so many more. They don't even know that they're slaves, regardless of what name they're claiming. They don't even know that they're slaves.
Yeah.
Right.
It means they know they're slaves. You look like Harriet Tubman in there when you go in there more.
Yeah.
You're Harriet Tubman.
Mm-hmm.
You're the real Underground Railroad. You're it. You got the keys to unlock the shackles, and they got to get you out of there. Moore's getting kicked out the back door of jail. That's crazy.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Kicked out.
Moore walking up the street in his jumpsuit.
Yep.
Kicked out of the jails, man. That bugged me out because you in there waking up too many people, messing up somebody's finance. Can't have you in there.
Mm-hmm. Right. So there was a so-called nation of gods on earth that was out there talking about, they are a nation. Goes by the name of Born Mastermind Allah. Now there's enough videos on YouTube with him going to Nation of Gods and Earths and them questioning him on who the hell is he or whatever. How come we don't know who you are and all this stuff? Born, adjective, Old English, boren, alternative past participle of barren, see bear. In modern use, the connection with bear is no longer felt. The phrase to be born has become virtually an intro verb. Old English, distinguish between born and born. 17th century from early 14th century, possessing from birth the character or quality described. Born poet, born loser, from 1710 as innate, inherited. Colloquial expression in one's born days, in one's lifetime. Mastermind, 1720, an outstanding intellect, from master, noun, plus mind, meaning head of a criminal enterprise. As a verb, also mastermind, to engage in the highest level of planning and execution of major operation. Masterminded, masterminding. And again, when we speak about people being masterminds, know that there's mastermind that's a highly intellectual individual, and then there's mastermind that's a finesser that knows the right words to say, how to say it. Farrakhan is a master finesser. He knows how to talk to people, especially people who don't know the truth about their nationality and birthrights like he does. Father Allah was an intellectual. Just go read the Nation of Gods and Earths lessons. That's not finessing. That's information you can go check, verify. Noble Juali, he was an intellectual. El Hajj, he was an intellectual. Dane Calloway, he's a mastermind, finesser, knows how to talk, what to say, when to say it, what tone to use. All these things are skills that people use to manipulate weak-minded people. Let's hear what the God has to say.
From the nation of gods and earths, we have born mastermind Allah. Peace to the God.
Peace to the God.
Clap up.
Peace, Queen.
Peace, God. Now, the God is here today to discuss a form of building, a form of nation building, shall we say, in the form of the knowledge of a tribal government and how a tribal government is formed, why you would want to form one, the benefits of such tribal government. So please take the floor, tell us about, you know, what you brought to me. And I had the, you know, the privilege of going to a meeting and sitting down and really seeing what it's about, and felt like this is something that the people need to hear, know about. So, Bill, God.
Thank you, my brother, for having me on the show.
Absolutely.
And Queen. Well, again, my name is Born Mastermind Allah. I'm the founder of Nation Business Builders, which is an organization dedicated to the socio-political and economic growth and development of the Black community. And when I say Black, I mean, you know, so-called African-American, Hispanic, Caribbean, West Indian, African, the whole thing. I'm also the founder of Allah's 5% Nation of God and Earth tribal government, which is an Aboriginal nation state. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that right here within this...
There's a lot more. You already know. 3 minutes in. 3 minutes in. Go ahead, more.
I just want to... What's the name of the nation state again?
Let's just pull that up. I don't think they gave a... Let's just pull that up again.
And West Indian, African, the whole thing. I'm also the founder of Allah's 5% Nation of God and Earth tribal government, which is an Aboriginal nation state.
Wow. Now, okay. Nations of God and Earth of Aboriginal indigenous people. Where's it at?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the nations of God? Where's the nation of gods and earth? Where's that at? I've never even heard of that. What flag is that?
Made up yesterday.
What country is that? What treaties they got?
Made up yesterday.
What tree? Where is that? What land is that?
Right, and
Can
then
you fly the nations of gods and earth? Can we walk there?
And then remember
the
game.
Morocco.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. The game that they play with Moors is, well, Moorish Science Temple of America is not a government. No, it's a religious corporation. That has nothing to do with it. We're Moors. Our nation state is Morocco. What are you talking about? The jurisdiction that we're in is Morocco.
Yep.
Nation of Gods and Earths are in Morocco. Nation of Islam is in Morocco. UNIA, that's in Morocco.
Yep.
Nuapian Nation of Moors, that's in Morocco.
All that stuff in Morocco, doing business in Morocco.
Right, and then you're gonna hear this mentioned, but let's just put this out there. Nationality, Black's Law Dictionary, 1176. Nationality, that quality or character which arises from the fact of a person's belonging to a nation or state. That has to be something that's already established. You can't make up a nation state and say our nationality is some tribe or whatever. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Nationality, that quality or character which arises from the fact of a person's belonging to a nation or state.
Can't just make it up to that. Can't do it. Can't do it.
Yeah, and again, the finesse part of it is sliding indigenous in there to make you think that they have the power to do this because they're indigenous, and because they're indigenous, they get to govern their own stuff. No, even indigenous people have to have a nationality, and you can't make that up yesterday. As soon as you make that up yesterday, it's time for Bellevue for you, because you're talking crazy.
Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that right here within this country, there are over 550 autonomous tribal nation states that are federally recognized for so-called Native Americans. Now, out of those 550 federally recognized autonomous nation states, a vast majority of them are Mongoloid, so-called Native American Indian. Now, the term Indian is a misnomer. According to Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, the term Indian only means indigenous North American, right? Somebody who's native to this part of the world. Now, we as Black people, we have the archaeological, paleontological.
Right? Say it more. Spill it.
That's what I was mentioning earlier. They have to still mention their NBC, the Negro Black Colored, because that's how they get their kick. That's the kickback. That's the squeezing. That's the still straddling in the fence. You can't. How do you say so-called Black people earlier, and then say Indian is a misnomer, and then now us as Black people? What is? That's confusion.
Yeah.
That's wrong. Yeah. You can't do that.
Supremely wrong. And the second part of that is the federally recognized, right? Black's Law Dictionary, since they like to use Black Law Dictionary but never have a dictionary for you to look stuff up when they're talking. Yeah. Page 740, federal American law belonging to the general government or union of the states, founded on or organized under the Constitution or laws of the United States. So these 500 and whatever federally recognized indigenous whatever are all under the jurisdiction of the United States Bureau of Indian Affairs, which means that they have nothing to do with Aboriginal, indigenous, anything. They're property, just like Black, Negro, colored, and whoever else is property.
Yep. By definition.
By definition. And again, the definition under American law, not United States law, not United States of America law. American law is qualifying that all those federally recognized whatever are fraud. You don't want to be a federally recognized whatever, because that's not federal. That's Walmart. Walmart recognizes you as Aboriginal Indigenous, and you're taking that serious. Taco Bell recognizes you as a Moor, and you're a Moor because Taco Bell recognizes you, and you expect somebody to take you serious? Please stop the games.
I remember one of the Choctaw guys wrote in the comment, Choctaws are federally recognized. But the thing is, well, I asked him, who recognized you? Because the federal, well, who is that? That's colonizer. That's the so-called black guy slave master. He recognized you as indigenous. Your master, the guy who came and colonized here. That's who gave you the thumbs up and said, you're the Aboriginal Indigenous person here. The colonizer guy gave you the thumbs up. Like, that's all. And so that now it's official because you got the okay from me, colonizer guy.
Yep. And
that's where these people's brains go to. I'm like, yo, that's nothing.
Right, and that's
nothing.
This is why, if you're really saying you're a nation of gods and earths, you need to put that bay on there. Because your own is selling you out. Whether you recognize this born mastermind, Allah or not, nation of gods and earths people, whether you recognize him or not, you're still playing yourself. Because with his recognition of being whatever he's claiming that they are, or just being what you think that you are, a nation, and you got your lessons and all that stuff, you're still committing a fraud. Because you already know what they did to the father. So why you think that the same stuff's not going down with you? Why you think that they're not treating you like a ward? You already know what they did to the father Allah. You already know that they trumped up charges and they fake whatever. Then you know that they assassinated him and all that stuff. Well, how? Why they do that? How come?
Yep.
Outside of the jurisdiction. Well, they assassinated Noble Drew Ali. Yeah, but Noble Drew Ali got released from prison into the hands of the people who were on his side that assassinated him. He wasn't in their jurisdiction when he got assassinated. He was on murder charges and they let him go. Doesn't that tell you something about Moorish nationality? It's a documented fact that, Chicago police killed Noble Drew Ali. He got released out of their clutches. Why? Because he was a Moorish Moroccan national and they did not have jurisdiction over him. Yep. He raised federal question. Let's read that, 740. Cases arising under Constitution of United States, Acts of Congress, or treaties and involving their interpretation and application, and of which jurisdiction is given to the federal courts, are commonly described as involving a federal question. They didn't have jurisdiction, so it's not the same. They didn't put Noble Drew Ali in a psychiatric institution when he said that he's the prophet. You guys don't have jurisdiction when he went to court. They let him go.
Right.
Because the first issue at law is status. If your status is dead, you're done for. If your status is dead, you're done for. Know that without a shadow of a doubt. And we know that these people are playing games.
Be graphic, phenotypic, genetic, as well as eyewitness accounts of evidence and proof that we are the indigenous and aboriginal people of the entire planet, including this part of the world that we call North America. So we are the natives, right? We don't call ourselves Indians because, again, that's a misnomer. However, we are the aboriginal people of this part of the world, like the entire planet. We were here before anyone else, including the Mongoloid so-called Native American Indian. Therefore, we have the ability to claim our nationality. So what we've done, because we can trace our bloodline back to the Olmec, Mayan, or Xi civilization, we can also trace our bloodlines back to those West Alkebulan or West African Moors who came here prior to European colonization, also mixed with the Aboriginals who were already here and formed governments and established civilizations and so on and so forth.
Right. So if you know that we're the Moors that came over here and whatever, then how come you're a nation of gods and earths and whatever? How come you had to make up something yesterday if you know that we are descendants of the same thing Noble Drew Ali said, descendants of Moroccans, which are Moors, born in America. Descendants of Moroccans, which are Moors, Olmecs, She people, Cat people, whatever you want to call us, descendants of them born in America, which means that we're Moors as well. If our ancestors were Moors, it only makes sense.
Yep.
If our ancestors were Moors, then why are we blacks and indigenous and all these other stuff except Moors?
Adjectives.
And we know that it's a game because this generation, like we said, this whole, learning online and you don't have to go to the library anymore and all that stuff, learning, is all to cause confusion.
Yep.
Because like we said, nobody can say that when you come to Canaanland Moors, you get references. We don't just talk out of our mouth and don't back up every single thing that we say with book references. Everything that we talk about, 2,000 videos that we've been talking about, we always give book references. Any Moors who are students for real, they would give you a book reference. Why? Because they don't want you to be a follower. They want you to go research, find out the stuff for yourself. Matter of fact, whenever you find out, whatever you find out, make sure you bring that stuff back so we can know something, because we don't know it all. The true masters are the ones that are students. The true master learns from the pupil. The true master doesn't put himself on whatever because he's got a black belt and then he can't get a poke in the eye from a student and say that that's a move and learn something. Islam, more sorry to cut you.
No, it's wrong. It's wrong. Like you said, they cause confusion. I'm glad you said that. They get online because Moors don't go study. Moors don't have their own personal library in their house. They just go online and just click, and those people right there to cause confusion. Because sometimes, I used to think like, wow, Granchi, I can't believe they let us go on YouTube and just give all this information like that and not, stop it. But then when you look at it, it's like, well, they're letting out all of these confusion people too.
Yeah, that's the balance.
It's not.
That's the balance.
That's the balance, right? Right.
Yeah.
Right. You guys aren't getting away with it. Us putting out the information because we're letting the dirty Moors do what they do, putting out their BS crap to cause confusion.
Yep.
It's a lot of it. It's some because he just went in on Moors, right? Real quick. He just went on
real quick. Just
being here.
Throw it out there.
And I'm like, okay.
Real quick.
So you're saying black people were here? The black people are the people who have the evidence of the oldest on Earth, and all of that. Those were called black people at that time. He just sits there and name all the ancient titles that we had. He says Moors. He says all the so-called Indian names.
Yep.
But then But the real ancient people were black people. Those are the first indigenous people who are the nations of gods and earth or aboriginal. And see that crack? Look at that. Look at that. And my thing, you already know, Grancy, all of this stems from when all of those Moors back, even you, Harvey Day Publications, Taj, Hakeem, Abdullah, list goes on. All these Moors doing all this work for the last 20, 30 years. And now all of a sudden, because of social media, all these new people coming up there talking about, I'm the co-founder of Aboriginal. No, brother,
yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? You just lied.
Yeah.
I've never even seen you. I've never even seen you. I pull up a video from '97 of C. Freeman L talking. I don't even. Where were you? Where were these people at in '97?
Yeah, where were they in '97? Where were they when Journal of the Moorish Paradigm came out? Nowhere to be seen.
Saying that we are the Aboriginal indigenous people.
Yep.
Negro, black, and color is a misnomer.
Running a fraud.
So therefore, based on international law, we have the right to formulate our own tribal government and claim our nationality because we had civilizations and governments prior to anyone else being here. So in doing so, a group of us from a lost 5% nation of God and earth, we formed a plebiscite. And what a plebiscite is when a group of people come together to take a vote. Now you can vote on changing a part of the Constitution or discarding the Constitution altogether, claiming your nationality or choosing a nationality, and that's what we've done. Now, according to the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 15, 1 states that everyone has a right to a nationality.
No, let's just get plebiscite out there too so that people could get this perspective proper, because people are telling you stuff without giving you reference points, so you stay lost. And they throw stuff out there, make you think that they're smart or quote unquote mastermind when they're playing you, right? Plebiscite, page 1312. In modern constitutional law, the name plebiscite has been given to a vote of the entire people. The entire people. That is the aggregate of the enfranchised individuals composing a state or nation, expressing their choice for or against a proposed law or enactment submitted to them, and which, if adopted, will work a radical change in the Constitution, or which is beyond the powers of the regular legislative body. The proceeding is extraordinary and is generally revolutionary in its character, an example of which may be seen in the plebiscite submitted to the French people by Louis Napoleon, whereby the Second Empire was established. But the principle of the plebiscite has been incorporated in the modern Swiss constitution under the name of referendum, by which a revision of the constitution may be undertaken when demanded by a vote of 50,000 Swiss citizens. Now, what proposed law or enactment submitted to them did they form a plebiscite for? Because if they're indigenous, they have nothing to do with U.S. So they shouldn't even be talking about plebiscite. They shouldn't even be going there. But again, once you get people who are finesse masters, they throw things out there to make themselves sound like they know what they're talking about. You're not changing this constitution. You have no jurisdiction in that constitution. That constitution has nothing to do with aboriginals or indigenous people.
Or nations of gods and earth.
Or nations of gods and earth or whatever. That has nothing to do with them. That constitution is to keep the Europeans in check. That's the supreme law of the land, to keep them in check. And whether plebiscite or referendum, that's not our jurisdiction. We already have everything already. We already have our constitution. We already have our quote unquote supreme laws. We don't need anything. We don't need to come together to form something that, what are you talking about? We already have everything. All we have to do is proclaim and declare who it is that we are, which is Moors. Do like Brother Universal in the chat, who's Nation of Gods and Earths. Put the bay on the stuff, proclaim that you're a Moor, and then be brought back into the constitutional fold of government so you could have some rights. And then they're going to go into talking about some international law and all this type of stuff when your name's Born Mastermind Allah. That's not free national name. You don't got no free rights. You don't got no rights as no national to be talking international law. Born Mastermind Allah is a fiction, because guaranteed, if we pull you up, I know you don't have any ID in your pocket that says that that's who you are. I know you haven't done a name correction, that you went from the straw or the slave name to Born Mastermind Allah, and then you have a judicial proclamation stating that that's who you are, and then you put people on notice about that's who you are, and then you proclaim, declare your nationality, and have your nationality card that says that your nation is 5% and all that stuff. I know for a fact nobody in Nation of Gods and Earths has that. Only the ones who proclaimed and declared their nationality as Moors. Everybody else playing around.
And two, no one shall be arbitrarily denied their right to a nationality or their right to change their nationality. So that's what we've done. We've come together and have taken that vote. And the importance of nationality, we know as Black people in this country, we have been denationalized.
Right. Black is not a nationality.
Black is not a nationality.
Just to let you know.
Right. There's no nation called Black.
Right.
Right. African American is not a nationality. No. There's no nation called African American. So if you ask someone from Germany what their nationality is, they'll say German. Right. You ask someone from China what their nationality is, they'll say China. Someone from Spain, they'll say their nationality is Spanish. Right. Even those who are on the so-called African continent, if you ask them their nationality, they're not going to say African. Even if they consider themselves African, there are 54 nation states on that continent.
Ghanaian.
Right.
I never heard
exactly. Now,
my father's a 5%er. My father's that. My father is hold on, let me get his title right. Something like Universal Father God Allah, something like that. They all got that Allah stuff.
Yeah.
At the end, but my father is in it. He used to do all the lessons when he was in Shirley Max, Federal State Prison, whatever that is up there. My father was all of that. He never said anything about nationality, us blacks, sir. That's not a national, none of that. Nothing he's up there saying came from Nations of Gods and Earth. Yep. All of that comes from Noble Jew Ali and Moorish.
Yep.
All of that.
All of that.
All of that. Nations of Gods and Earth never said none of that. None of that. My father almost 60 years old. My father almost 60. This gentleman right here, he was like a young man. My father was in that when he was younger than me. He was in his 20s. It's like 40-some years ago. 40 years ago. He was in his 20s. He never said nothing like this. When I was little, never. I'm like, wait a minute, my father's in this. How's he talking like this? Where he get? Because I say that because where did you get that information from?
Because we
didn't just wake up one day, we're not black. No, that don't work like that.
Yeah. You obviously were taught. You obviously were taught or had the lessons of the prophet. Obviously. Right? No different than we can, we can pull out our book or whatever, Supreme Lessons, right? And we can go to English C lesson, and we know that Fard came to the wilderness of North America by himself. He came as a free man of his own free will. His first appearance in 1910 is said to have come in contact with Noble Drew Ali, Moorish Temple of Islam. Note, it is said he proclaimed himself the reincarnation of Noble Drew Ali. This is when he began to teach the knowledge of God here in North America. He set up the first temple in Detroit, where it is said he had as many as 8,000 followers between 1930 and 1934. And then he disappeared in 1934. No, he didn't disappear. He got kidnapped for running fraud. We're not going to say that, oh yeah, we just, heard about that and we're just putting it out there. No, there's documented facts. There are people who put out certain information. So we know what's up. We're not in the dark about this. We are not in the dark. As Moorish Americans, we actually do study. We study so much, we might not even sleep. And we're not just studying some little pamphlet that Noble Drew Ali brought, and that's it. We're not just studying Holy Quran only, and 101 questionnaires only, and Divine Constitution only, and that's it. No, we study everything.
Yeah.
We're not like Nation of Gods and Earths, and we're only studying these lessons only. And what's the math of today, and that's it. Are you telling me some NOI and supreme wisdom, and that's it? No. There's way more information in the world than these little 3 books that Noble Drew Ali brought for us to be so asinine to think we're just going to study that and that's it. And we're straight because we're just studying what Noble Drew Ali brought and we don't need to know anything else. Anybody talking like that is playing. So we want to put it out there. We want you to know. We want it to be spread out that we see you, gods, earths, right? We see you. And all you earths, don't let these gods call you queen, because that means prostitute.
Yes, it does.
Don't let them call you queen. If you're earth and they're calling you queen, they're playing you. Because queen is a prostitute, a whore.
Yep.
Don't let them diss you. And don't take that as some endearing term. Your man loves you because he's the king and then you're a queen. No, he's an emperor, you're an empress.
Yep.
Because we're part of an empire. You know, king and queen. As soon as you go there, play yourself. Because lack knowledge. Don't forget, Mars, MHHS, eyes wide open. Funny how times flies when you're making love to your mind. 2 hours gone already. You know what the hell's going on. You get 5 minutes into this damn thing. How much minutes we have? 6 minutes.
That's crazy.
6 minutes in. We kind of took a little while, you know what I mean, to we took a little while to get in.
You gotta put the foundation.
We gotta put the foundation.
Because they're tricksters.
Right? We gotta put the foundation in. Right? But you already know how we do. So make sure you share, let them know what's going on. But again, we got MHHS, eyes wide open, going on. Join us today, 9:30, Eastern Standard Time, 319-527-6751. 319-527-6751 or 425-569-5201. 425-569-5201. If you don't got the long distance and you can't call in and all that stuff, then all you got to do is go on blogtalkradio.com/MHHS-eyes wide open. Make sure if you're calling in, you call in between 9:15 and 9:16. Because once the call's full, you're not getting it. Because you know these Moors, they love the mothers. They'll listen to the mothers all damn night if they can. Right?
I remember that.
And don't forget.
I remember first calling in.
Go ahead, boy.
I'm sorry about that.
No, go ahead, boy.
I just remember first calling in. First calling in, and I didn't know about the lines filling up. You know what I mean? So I'm calling in, and the voice recorder will come on, and he sorry, and I'm like, what is class canceled? Class canceled? And I used to just get so mad, like I can't believe it. Then I picked up on, I gotta call in 15 minutes before class starts.
Yeah.
That's no, you call at 9:30, brother. You 20 minutes late.
Yeah.
You 20 and class start at 9:30, and you 20 minutes late.
Mm-hmm. Right, and don't forget this Saturday for all the Moors that are near the Ottawa territory. Islam to the Moors near Ottawa. We got the annual lecture out there this Saturday, November 2nd, 6 p.m. at 149 King George Street, which is the top floor. You know, we're moving on up to the. We're moving on up. At the Cultural Arts Studio. At the Cultural Arts Studio near Ottawa. Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Divine National Movement, Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Moorish Science Temple of America, Education Corporation at Ottawa. The exhuming of the Moorish nation. We're waking up the people out there. Islam to the Moors out there that's been putting their work in, and give thanks for, bringing us out, because you already know people don't wanna, call the Moors to do stuff. So Islam to the Moors. Cultural Arts Studio, 149 King George Street, top floor, across from Overbrook Community Center. Contact information 613-700-2722. 613-700-2722. If you want any contact info, or if you just want to build with those Moors out in the Ottawa territory, feel free to give those Moors a call. They know what they're talking about. Islam to all. Peace to all the Moors in the chat. Islam to the 81 Moors out there that were tuned in today. Islam to the sneaky Moors in the background that didn't get in the chat at all. You're just back there taking notes or whatever. Islam to you. And peace and love to all. We'll be back again Sunday with our temple class, our temple meetings. And don't forget, any questions, canaanlandguide@gmail.com. CANAANLANDGUIDE@gmail.com. Oh yeah, and don't forget, you can get all the GS books at khalifamedia.com, and you can get all the Iron Sheik and all the other Moorish music at willofalah.com. Once again, give thanks, Brother Yusuf, for your time and energy. Give thanks to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and honors to Allah. You got any shout outs out there, more?
Yeah, Islam, man. She give thanks for your platform. We need your platform to get rid of all the dirtiness out there. We need that. We need that. Islam to the Moors in the chat. Islam to the Moors who sneak studying in the back. I know they listening.
We know.
Moors out there got their phone on speakerphone, I know the Moabite probably walking by. He listening to class. They listening. They sneak studying. They know. They sneak studying.
Don't worry.
Islam to the sneak studying Moors. I like them Moors. I love them Moors.
Yep, the sneak studying Moors. Yep. The Moors on the slave. The ones on the slave with the earbud in. Just.
I remember that.
The Moors on the slave with the earbud, just doing whatever they're doing, looking innocent, but making sure you're getting that working. Peace and love to all you boys. Yep. Islam, and to all, a good night.
Yeah. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I'm going at dirty rappers lynching dirty Moors too. Hiding literature that Drew wrote to warn you. They claim to make you Muslim and make you sovereign. The paperwork and filings is fiat and robbing. They don't care about his words, throw it out like garbage or throw it at you when you're active, not passive. When they want to talk about it's like off a trampoline mattress, treat them like a vamp or a teen actress. Get stabbed, whip and brand like a mean savage. This inquisition's divine, all others average. Millennium Renaissance, heroes in our classes. Shut up with the czar control and fascists. Ask if they heard about Moors, they say no. But Masons, they obviously know. Found the handshakes and rituals with skull and bones. They even know about owls burning Bohemian Grove. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. Dirty Moors killed Drew. I read the FBI papers. I'm loyal Moors, emergency fund rapers. Moorish literature and divine ballot changes. Might as well say Drew Ali was born in a manger. Prophets put poison inside and his food smelled danger. Got me treating every Moor like a stranger. Grand Chief Funkin, stumbling drunk in their feds. What was proclaimed for every meeting was not read. Some Moors are so active, prophet can't be dead. Thanks Moorish teachers away, I can't be led. Actions speak, then I consider what's said. And what's said was study, then study yourself. Honest to the prophet over Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. Everybody wants to be just like Drew Ali, but nobody wants to care about Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did.